万门大学的小伙伴们，大家好，我是兰菲利博士，是莱特研究大学的应用神经科学教授。今天我很荣幸给你们介绍巴博士的一些讲座。他今天要讲关于你是不是被动这个问题为什么重要？这个问题重要的原因是因为面对困难的时候有两种人，一种人会去逃避这个困难，去做别的事情，另外一种人是去面对这个困难。巴布老师要回答为什么我们要从逃避这个问题到处理面对这个问题的一个过程。我们先去听巴布老师讲为什么我们要去面对我们的困难而不被动。
Hello, I'm Dr. Bob Wright, the Professor of Transformational Leadership and Coaching at the Wright Graduate University for the Realization of Human Potential. And I'm here today to ask you if you're too passive. Some active people actually are more passive than you would think because they're not effectively active. But we'll get to that in a minute. I really came onto this subject from author John Lee. And he has a great deal to say about passivity, especially in men. He says that passive people live at half speed, which ultimately leaves people feeling that their glass is half empty. They always think that things aren't good enough. And thus, they half-heartedly commit to projects, plans, and goals. They are dissatisfied with their lives. They're half in and half out of relationships, thinking that they should find a new person, get a new job, but they never quite go about doing it. The passive person is more attached to not having what they think they want or desire, even though they protest loudly that they think so. Now, we've been looking at the self-fulfilling prophecy. The passive person believes that the world does not want to please them. So they act in a way that's halfway, and they don't get it. So the world doesn't think it has to give them anything, so the world acts that way, and it keeps the belief going. Another word for this is passive-aggressive. It's like playing chess and never being able to have checkmate on the other person. The best you can do is to get a stalemate. So you either are going to lose the game or have a draw, but you never get to win. Passivity and passive aggression cause us to turn our natural drive inwards and begin eating us out from the inside out. We also have loss aversion with passivity. We're afraid of losing face. We're afraid that people will judge us. We're afraid that we are going to be rejected by the group. So we never fully show up. We never fully engage. So we can never really be accepted for who we are with the group. Passivity. With passivity, I think I'm doing things, but they don't necessarily work. John Lee tells a story about a hard-driving businessman that came into him for therapy. And this businessman read books on couples. He went to couples seminars. But no matter what happened, he was never happy in his marriage. John Lee asked him, he said, well, tell me, what is it you want more of? He says, I want more physical affection and more contact with my wife. And John Lee says, well, tell me more about that. And he talks about, he says, I walk in the house and my wife is watching TV. And I immediately feel rejected and go to my office or tell her that I resent the TV. And John Lee says to him, would you be willing to try an experiment? In our terms, that's an assignment. He says, sure, of course I will. He said, would you go in next time and sit down next to her, take her feet in your lap and start giving her a foot rub? A week later, he comes back and talks to John Lee. He says, I can't believe it, everything's changed. John says, what happened? He says, well, I came back. I came back home, and I did what you said, and I sat down, and I took her feet, and I started giving her a foot rub. She immediately looked at me and said, who are you? Turned the TV off, grabbed my hand, and dragged me to the bedroom, and I had all the physical affection that I could want. That's really a remarkable story. But John Lee's point was the man was active but passive. He was not seeking the most effective activity. Too often, people do the same thing over and over again and get the same result. One of the definitions of insanity is doing the same thing and thinking it should be different. We've talked a couple of times about one of our clients, the one who would lose himself in spreadsheets. He was terribly passive. His wife was pretty passive too, but she's the one that stirred up their marriage and said that she was going to take off and leave him. And I talked in another one of our episodes about how he began recognizing his emotions and doing assignments and working to change himself. She wasn't playing the blame game. She wasn't saying, it's your fault, I'm unhappy. She's saying, you are not changing. You are not changing. And I expect you to change. She knew what she wanted, but he wasn't changing until she threatened to leave. And then their changes began. Each of them has a tendency to be passive, but each of them has since learned to support each other to have remarkably effective careers. Neither of them is outgoing, the life of the party. They're thoughtful. She has a witty sense of humor that kind of comes from left field. It's a baseball term, from the side. And he really doesn't have that much of a sense of humor, but they are more actively engaged in getting what they want. They're still quiet. You could even say that they're actively shy, but they are actively engaged in experimenting. See, they've learned how to, remember we've also talked about tapping their yearning. They tap their yearning, they engage, and they revelate. As a matter of fact, they not only learn and grow as individuals, but they learn and grow together. They help each other figure things out. They support each other in their career a great deal. And they support each other in doing new things that were liberating, that would be difficult for either one of them to do alone. And they have transformed. They are new people who are dedicated and stretching into new ways of being to keep themselves learning and growing. That's one of the key parts of the process that we teach in the Heart of the Fight, is to dedicate, is to always have some way that you are stretching, that you are going for new things. Dr. Judith did not want to get her doctorate. She was a better student than I was. And I dragged her into graduate school, and I dragged her through most of our courses. You could have said she was very passive about it. But when we had to write our comprehensive exams, she went into a whole new zone. Suddenly, her yearning was like a burning fire. She always was a good reader. She read very fast. She read 1,200 words a minute with a photographic memory when I married her. But it was mostly highbrow literature, really fine literature. But once she began tapping this yearning that her reading could make a significant difference in the world, she went nuts. She reads probably 5 books a week, and we both work full-time jobs and more. She's the one who keeps us at the cutting edge because her yearning to learn and grow is endless. She taps that yearning, she engages, and the two of us together started the graduate school. We do books together, and we yearn together. As a matter of fact, we fight together too. So in our book Transformed, which is out in China now, she and I drove down to Texas when we were riding. That's a long drive. It's 20-some hours. And one of the best ways to get me to focus is to let me drive and we could talk. There were some of the paragraphs in that book that we fought about for an hour. A 5-sentence paragraph, 4-sentence paragraph. I would say, that's good, leave it alone. She'd say, no, this first sentence doesn't fit with what we said in the first chapter. I'd say, okay, change it. And then I'd say, good, now let's go on. I want to get, and she'd say, no, it's still not right. I'd say, what's not right? Her yearning to get it right is very huge. My yearning to get going probably wasn't really yearning. It was probably avoidance. But at any rate, so we would fight through each sentence, and I want you to know that she won at least 3 out of every 4 of our arguments. Just as you may have heard ways she has won other fights. But I win quite a number that you don't hear about. But the point is that she became more and more active, but it was hard for her to believe that I wanted her to be active. It was hard for her to believe that I actually wanted her to engage with me. There are so many stories we could tell you about when she finally started doing it. It was not always pleasant, but it was so fulfilling. So, address your passivity. Recognize if you're doing the same thing and expecting a new result, that's insanity. Tap your yearning, engage, experiment, learn, notice about yourself, learn about the world, and try new things. Overcome your passivity. Thank you.